No one remembered when Earth stopped being a backwater planet. It happened quietly, slowly, a few trade deals here, a couple mercenaries hired out there. Then suddenly, humans were everywhere, on stations, on freighters, in the command ranks of fringe armies. Nobody had feared them at first. They were considered quaint, emotional, loud, passionate, weak. Then came the Vindicator. The Vindicator wasn't just a ship. It was a floating monstrosity built from the bones of a broken armada, forged in a gravity well where no other species dared to mine. It was stitched together from a dozen different technologies, half of them stolen, and the rest barely understood. The hull was made of neutron-bonded titanium ceramic, rumored to be scavenged from a dead star's crust. It carried no insignia, no flag, only a single phrase scorched into its armor in 27 languages. We offered peace. You chose war. The first time it appeared, it didn't fire a shot. It just dropped into orbit above Ares Prime, a trade world run by the Volari Consortium, and sent a single signal: evacuate. The Volari laughed. All 12 clans gathered their fleets, some 500 ships strong. They expected an easy win, even as Vindicator held its position, silent and cold. They came in full force. Then the lights on the human warship flickered. No one knows what happened next exactly, because every Volari ship's black box was wiped clean. But planetary sensors picked up a single massive energy surge, the kind not even fusion drives could replicate, and in just 17 seconds, the entire Volari fleet was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. No wreckage, no debris, just silence, like the stars themselves held their breath. That was the moment the galaxy realized they had made a mistake. Humans weren't just another species trying to claw their way up the interstellar ladder. They were a storm, and the Vindicator was their thunderclap. Over the next few months, the ship became legend. Whole governments surrendered the moment it entered their system. Pirate kings abandoned fortresses they'd ruled for decades. Alien warlords scrubbed their systems of anything remotely human, terrified of provoking its return. Captain Era Voss was the woman behind the legend, though no one really saw her face. She was never caught on any official records. No interviews, no transmissions, nothing, just ghost stories passed between soldiers and smugglers. A human with cold eyes and a voice like ice water, who once whispered command, and caused the planet to shut down its power grid for 3 days without firing a single weapon. The ship moved in silence. Always. It spoke only when necessary, and it never negotiated. Once the Vindicator set its course, surrender was the only option. Those who didn't were erased. There were whispers, of course, that the ship held a weapon ban by the Galactic Council, that it was powered by a captured singularity, that its crew were all dead, their minds uploaded into a hive AI that felt no mercy. No one knew the truth. But the most terrifying thing wasn't what the Vindicator could do. It was that the humans had built more than one. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far. After decades of ridicule, border raids, and betrayals, Earth had decided enough was enough. The Galactic Council tried to summon them for diplomacy, but the humans didn't respond. Not with words. They responded with a ship. Now the Council sat in quiet fear, each member looking to the stars and wondering if they'd be next. On a cold outer moon in the Kestrian system, a small mining outpost picked up a signature they hoped they'd never see again. A human transponder code broadcasting from deep space. The code was old, obsolete, but it belonged to the Vindicator. The outpost commander, a graying Drexy named Vorincrax, stared at the transmission screen with his 3 eyes squinting, his tendrils twitching with unease. That transponder code, it's unmistakable. Human, yes, but not just any human ship. This is the one. The code had been locked in every council database, tagged with 17 separate threat markers. It hadn't been seen in over a cycle. Most had assumed the Vindicator had gone dark or had been destroyed. But now it was moving, and it was heading straight toward Kestra Moon 4. He hit the emergency comm switch and tried to signal high command, his voice cracking with the effort to stay calm. This is Cracks, Mining Outpost 14. We have a code red contact. Human warship. Identification matches Vindicator. Repeat. Vindicator inbound. Silence. Not even static. Then came a soft clicking noise, followed by a voice, low, human, and impossibly calm. Your transmission has been intercepted. You will not contact the Council. Evacuate now. Cracks froze. That voice, it was a whisper, like someone was speaking directly into the back of his skull. His staff, all 7 species, stared at him wide-eyed, motionless. They'd heard it too. No weapons detected. No defenses activated. We are not here for you, the voice continued. But you are in our path. Leave within the next hour. Then the line went dead. Panic didn't break immediately. It cracked slowly, like glass under pressure. His crew whispered first, then someone ran. Then a junior tech screamed and smashed the alarm. Klaxons blared and lights shifted to crimson. The outpost turned to chaos. Crack stood silently at the comm station, breathing heavily. The old Drexy was no coward, but he had fought in 2 border skirmishes and seen enough human tactics to know one thing. They didn't bluff. Especially not that ship. He barked at the remaining officers. Scramble the transports. Get the miners out now. Don't take anything, just go. But the ore, someone began. Leave it. Cracks growled. You think rocks are worth more than your life. The ships launched in waves. Small haulers, old shuttles, anything that could get off the moon. They didn't wait to form ranks or check manifests. Just escaped. An hour passed. Nothing happened. Then, from the black of space, the Vindicator emerged. It didn't jump in with the usual energy flash or warp distortion. It just appeared, like it had always been there, cloaked in darkness, waiting. Its silhouette eclipsed a good portion of the mining moon's upper horizon. Lights ran down its spine like a sleeping predator, each one pulsing slowly, rhythmically. The ship made no sound, but every being who looked at it felt something deep in their gut twist and turn. The outpost was empty now, save for Cracks and his assistant, a young Joran named Thal. Thal had refused to leave. I have to see it, he'd said. I need to know why they're feared. Now, watching the Vindicator settle into low orbit, Cracks regretted letting him stay. The ship didn't fire, didn't scan, didn't even acknowledge them. Instead, it opened a single bay, massive and silent. And from it, a much smaller ship emerged, sleek, sharp-edged, blacker than the void around it. Thal leaned forward. Is that another warship? No, Cracks muttered. That's a message. The smaller craft descended, slow and steady. It landed precisely on the now empty mining pad outside the base. No landing gear. It just hovered inches above the surface and powered down. No lights, no entry ramp, just stillness. Thal looked at Cracks, who was already rising. You're not seriously going out there? I want to see it too, Cracks said grimly. They suited up and exited the station. The cold bit through even their thermals. The small craft stood like a monolith, no markings, no sound. Then, without a sound, the surface of the ship rippled. A small panel slid open, revealing a single item inside, a sealed case. Cracks approached it slowly. The case was plain metal, human design, no locks. Inside, nestled in black foam, was a data crystal. Cracks didn't touch it. Thal did. The moment his fingers brushed it, the ship behind him vanished. Not lifted off, not cloaked. It simply wasn't there anymore. The data crystal pulsed once in Thal's hand. Cracks stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. What the hell did they just give us? He whispered. Thal's face was pale, his voice shaking. I think it's a list. Thal held the crystal like it was radioactive, his hands trembling, eyes locked on the pulsing glow at its center. Cracks didn't speak. He didn't have to. Whatever was on that crystal, it wasn't just some standard message or warning. Not from humans. Not from that ship. They hurried back inside the outpost, silent as ghosts. The corridors echoed with their footsteps. All the miners were long gone, and the silence was making cracks itch under his carapace. It felt wrong, like the station itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to scream. In the main comm room, Thal inserted the crystal into the data reader. The console hesitated, then flickered to life, overloaded with encrypted code far beyond anything Kestran tech could handle. But it wasn't encrypted to keep people out. It was encrypted to make sure someone specific saw it. After a few flickers and loud bursts of static, a projection emerged, a hologram, human, female, Voss. Even though neither of them had ever seen her, they both knew instantly. The coldness in her eyes wasn't something you could mistake. She didn't blink, didn't move, just stared straight ahead as if time had frozen for her alone. Then she spoke. "If you're seeing this, then the Vindicator has passed you by. Consider yourselves fortunate." Her voice was low and deliberate, like a calm before a storm. Every word was chosen like a weapon. This is not a threat. It is a notice. You are now in possession of a council-sanctioned artifact, the Watch List. Thal leaned forward. The what? Crack's stomach sank. He knew that term. Old rumors, half-whispers from political offices, and underground resistance channels. The Watch List wasn't real. It was a myth, a secret document listing every regime, fleet commander, warlord, or scientist deemed too dangerous, corrupt, or cruel by humanity's hidden authorities. Too dangerous to coexist. The list is not a demand for surrender, Era continued. It's a final audit. Each name, each location has been vetted by human intelligence, cross-referenced with 17 different species' war crime records, and double-confirmed by AI historical reconstructions. The projection changed. Dozens of names began to scroll. Species, home worlds, fleet coordinates. Some cracks recognized instantly. Admiral Carrot of the Ulak fleet, known for purging refugee ships. Chancellor Brevin, who sold out his own citizens to an insectoid plague just to save face. Even members of the council itself appeared, their names glowing red. "This is not justice," Era said. "This is balance. You tipped it. We are correcting it." Crack stepped back, jaw tightening. They're not negotiating. They're executing. Thal was pale, eyes wide as he watched the names keep scrolling. There's hundreds of them. Era's voice took a darker tone now. If your species is listed, your leadership will receive one warning, one chance. Evacuate your people. Dismantle your weapons. Cease expansion. The hologram flickered briefly, as if something far more monstrous was trying to bleed through the transmission. If they do not, she said, they'll disappear. Quietly, like the Valari. Cracks felt his knees buckle slightly. This isn't war anymore. It's something else. Something worse. Thal turned to him. They're not trying to win a war. They're trying to end the game entirely. Then the feed paused. A soft beep. A blinking line at the bottom of the screen. New message incoming. Unlike the crystal feed, this one came in live, and it wasn't Era this time. It was another human. An old man, bald, no uniform, just a dark sweater and sunken eyes. He looked tired, worn. "My name is Tobias Rand. I used to be a diplomat. I tried to stop this. I failed." His voice cracked halfway through, and Cracks felt something inside his chest tighten. "They pushed us, laughed at us, took what they wanted from our borders, told us we didn't belong among the stars. Then, when we built the Vindicator, they screamed we were monsters." He leaned closer to the camera. "You taught us how to be cruel. You taught us what silence buys." The message ended. The console shut down completely. Power surged, then collapsed. Darkness swept through the comm room. Only the crystal remained glowing. Outside, the stars were still. No ships, no weapons, no signs of the Vindicator. Just a wave of a galaxy learning it had finally gone too far. The crystal still pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat that wouldn't quit. Cracks didn't move. Neither did Thal. For a long moment, both stood in silence, soaking in the cold dread that clung to the room like a second skin. The console was fried, completely dead. Even backup power refused to spark. Whatever the humans had done when they shut off the transmission, it was permanent. Can we even send this to the council? Thal finally asked, voice hoarse. Krax looked at him with tired, heavy eyes. And tell them what? That the bogeyman is real? That the Vindicator handed us the execution list for the entire ruling elite? Thal didn't answer. He didn't need to, because there was no version of this where the council believed them or acted on it. They would bury it like they buried everything else the humans tried to say before. And this time, the humans weren't going to talk again. They would act. Krax stepped forward, gently taking the crystal from the console. It was still warm. We're not sending it to the council, he said. We're delivering it in person. Thal's eyes widened. That's suicide. They'll kill the messenger just to keep this buried. Maybe, Krax said, but maybe if they see the truth before the sky burns, something changes. Just once. But deep down, Krax knew the council wouldn't act. They never had. They thought their wealth, their fleets, their alliances would shield them. They hadn't understood. Humans were never playing the same game. And this wasn't diplomacy anymore. This was a reckoning. 2 jumps away. In a shadowed sector humans called the Dead Ark, Vindicator floated in silence. Inside its core, Captain Erevaw stood before a wall of projections. Each name from the watch list displayed with full dossiers. Her expression never changed. Not at the details of genocide. Not at the images of families burned in planetary strikes. Not even at the weeping pleas of politicians recorded on secret channels. She had seen it all, over and over, for years. This wasn't about revenge. That would be personal. This was about pattern recognition. She turned to her exo, a scarred man named Radique, once a field surgeon during the Earth Carry Wars. Target status? She asked. Radique nodded. 3 watch list entries neutralized. 2 surrendered before contact. 1 entire fleet stood down after seeing our signature on long-range scan. Era nodded once. And the moon! The Drexy retrieved the crystal, just like we planned. Our ship retracted without direct contact. Observers confirmed they found the transmission, and they're headed to the council now. Era's eyes didn't blink. Let them. The command deck of Vindicator wasn't like other ships. No flashing lights, no chatter, just silent efficiency. Half the crew were enhanced humans. The rest were something else. Men and women who had been broken by war, left behind by Earth's forgotten treaties, and brought back not for justice, but for purpose. The ship wasn't powered by any single drive system. It moved through space like thought, slipping between conventional engines and experimental tech harvested from a dozen fallen empires. It could appear anywhere, disappear instantly. Its systems read minds before orders were spoken. But its most dangerous weapon wasn't its guns. It was what it represented. Proof that humanity had evolved into something the galaxy had never prepared for. A species willing to do the unthinkable to stop the inevitable. Next target? Era asked, her voice calm. Radique tapped a command. A system appeared in red. 3 inhabited worlds, 1 orbital station. A private fleet owned by a Zolari trade lord known for slave colonies and funding border terrorism. Council protected, Era noted. Radique nodded. Sarek, the bondkeeper. Is he on the watch list? 3rd column, priority red. Any children on those colonies? Not anymore. Move them off planet last cycle. He knows we're coming. Era's jaw tightened. Good. That means he'll understand why we don't stop. The lights dimmed. The Vindicator began its slow shift into jump phase, humming with quiet menace. At that same moment, across the stars, dozens of hidden human ships, sisters of Vindicator, smaller but just as lethal, received their silent signal. They activated. The list had started moving, and the galaxy still believed humans were a minor threat. That would change very soon. Council Hall always smelled like fear, but today it reeked of something worse, denial. Krax stood in the center of the chamber, hands behind his back, flanked by two silent guards who looked more ceremonial than protective. Thal was beside him, clutching the data crystal like a relic from a forgotten god. Around them, the semicircular hall buzzed with hushed voices, murmurs bleeding between languages. Every council member was present, 58 of them, seated on thrones of ego and comfort, staring down like judges at an execution. Above their heads, a giant holographic display flickered with the opening frames of the watch list, paused and pixelated for dramatic effect. Outlandish, hissed High Speaker Vine, a silver-plated Altari with venom for a tongue. Fabricated, or worse, human propaganda. This is a threat to galactic order. It's a warning, Crack said, voice echoing across the chamber. One you've ignored before. Don't ignore it now. Several counselors scoffed. A Zenturi general chuckled under his breath. But others were quieter, eyes darting between names on the list. Some new people there. Some were on it. Thal stepped forward, timid but burning with urgency. The humans aren't bluffing. We saw the ship. We saw the message. You're not at war with a faction. You're standing in front of a movement, and they've already started. High Speaker Vine waved a hand. The Drexy are known for exaggeration. You're miners, not diplomats. You saw a shadow, and now you bring us fairy tales. Crack's jaw tightened. You think this is a game? No, came a quiet voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned. Counselor Jenna of the Merits Collective, the oldest race on the council, stood slowly, her crystal skin shimmering under the light. It's not a game, she said. It's judgment. The room went still. I've lived through 6 galactic uprisings, she continued. I've seen species rise, fall, vanish, but I've never seen a race so methodical in their retaliation. The humans, they don't want territory. They don't want resources. They want balance. And that makes them far more dangerous. You're defending them? Vine snapped. No, Jenna replied. I'm respecting them. A silence followed, heavy as gravity. For a moment, it seemed like the council might actually listen. Then came the alarm. A piercing siren shattered the tension, followed by a rush of blue lights across the ceiling. A security officer ran into the chamber, face pale, panting from sprinting across the complex. Emergency broadcast. Unverified attack in progress. Zolari trade fleets are gone. All 5 ships vaporized within standard orbit range of planet Renix 2. No survivors. The chamber exploded with noise, shouts, questions, accusations. Was it pirates? Rebellion? Human action? The officer nodded grimly. Transponder logs confirm Vindicator's signature, detected 5 minutes before impact. No weapon discharge detected, just detonation. Total systems failure across all Zolari vessels. Crack stared into the chaos. They're not waiting for you to debate anymore. Vine turned on him, eyes wild. You brought this upon us. You triggered them. No, Thal said, stepping forward. You did. Years ago. You just didn't notice until now. Jenna raised her voice again. They're not just targeting war criminals. They're targeting silence, complicity, cowards. And then, over the entire chamber's emergency broadcast channel, a transmission interrupted every screen. It was Erebos. No warning, no preamble, just her standing against the shadows of her warship, eyes locked on every counselor through the feed. You've been heard, she said, and you've been weighed. She raised a single hand, and the hollow behind her showed a star system's tactical map, highlighting 5 other planets, 5 more names, 5 more lives to erase. Then the feed cut. Silence again. Real silence. Vine sat back, sweat pooling under his armor. They wouldn't destroy entire systems. They don't need to, Crack said. They only need to destroy you. The council dissolved into chaos. Not the kind with yelling and dramatic exits. Something colder, sharper. Silent glances, whispered comms to private fleets, hidden signals to off-world bunkers. Every one of them knew what the message meant, even if they pretended otherwise. The humans weren't coming for war. They were coming for individuals. It wasn't about conquest. It was personal, precise, surgical, a purge, not a campaign. Krax watched them scatter like rats in a burning ship, and for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt something closer to grim satisfaction. The illusion of their power was cracking. Finally, Vine leaned toward his console, sweat glistening on his metallic cheek plates. We'll authorize strike teams, anti-human protocols. Hunt them down like vermin before they destabilize everything. Juna's voice cut in like a blade. You try to hunt them now, and they'll burn every last trace of your name from the stars. No one argued, because she wasn't wrong. Across the edge of the Helix sector, a Zolari destroyer had floated in low orbit above a luxury colony on Renix 2, or it had, a few hours earlier. It had been a gleaming symbol of Zolari influence, impenetrable, arrogant, armed to the teeth. Now it was a shell, a husk. The command bridge had melted from within, systems fried not by traditional EMP but a virus, a thought weapon coded and broadcast through exotic radiation. No defense existed for it. No one knew how the humans had even discovered the technique. Bodies still sat in their chairs, unmoving. No burns, no wounds. Just gone. Only the ship's central AI had managed a final message before disintegration. One word, acknowledged, back on Vindicator. Era Voss reviewed the fallout silently. No gloating, no celebration. Just quiet confirmation that another link in the chain had been broken. Report, she asked. Radique stood near her, arms crossed. 5 targets eliminated. 2 confirmed watch list. 1 was an opportunist caught harboring the others. No civilian losses. We jammed orbital transport before entry. Council response? Scrambling fleets to protect their integrity, whatever that means. Some defectors already transmitting to us. Names! Radique handed her a datapad. You want to see the top of that list. Era read it, then smiled for the first time in weeks. Counselor Vine's personal security chief had sent the message. It read, I was loyal. I stayed silent. He sold children to buy mining rights on Varus. I want to testify. I want to live. I have everything recorded. Please, I don't want to die for him. Era's smile vanished. She nodded to Radique. Send him a location of our relay station. Let's see how far loyalty runs when their thrones start to wobble. Radique hesitated. And when we're done, when the list is finished. Era looked out the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly, cold and quiet. Then we build a new list, she said. Krax and Thal left council space within the cycle. No goodbyes, no thank you. The council offered them nothing. No protection, no honors, no transportation, just a soft, you are dismissed, like they'd just been tools, pawns and where the old power still refused to understand. But that was fine. They had seen the truth, and now they had a new purpose. On board a rusted merchant freighter bound for neutral space, Thal finally broke the silence. You think we'll be safe? Krax didn't answer immediately. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out the crystal. Still glowing, still warm. No, he said, but maybe we don't need to be safe anymore. Thal nodded slowly. Maybe we just need to be useful. Krax turned to the ship's console and opened a new channel, encrypted, hidden, dangerous. He transmitted a message into the void. No names, no signatures, just coordinates in one line. We believe in the balance. Tell Captain Voss we want in. The reply came 6 hours later. No voice, no image, just a single line of text that appeared on their freighter's cracked console, written in the unmistakable cadence of someone who no longer spoke in politics but in precision. Balance is earned, not claimed. Your trial begins at Arkin's grave. If you survive, we'll talk. Krax stared at it, his mandibles twitching slightly. Thal looked nervous already. Arkin's grave? That's a dead system. No sun, no charts. It doesn't even show up on most NAV maps. Exactly why they use it, Cracks muttered. They changed course immediately. No second guessing. Cracks had already decided. This wasn't a plea for mercy anymore. It was a choice. Either sit back and let the galaxy decay like it always had, or become part of the cleansing fire that was coming. It wasn't morality anymore. It was survival on new terms. And maybe justice, just not the Council's version of it. Arkin's grave was worse than Thal had imagined. No sun meant no warmth, no gravity wells, no time markers. Just an endless spread of shattered planets, broken moons, and ancient wreckage frozen in eternal drift. Dozens of ships floated lifelessly, their hulls rusted, torn, or melted by forgotten weapons. Some had markings from extinct species. Others bore signs of recent violence. They floated in silence, lit only by the eerie glow of a collapsed gas giant that shimmered faintly in the distance. As their ship entered the field, proximity alarms went wild. Cracks shut them off. If they wanted us dead, we wouldn't have gotten this far. Thal tried to smile. Failed. A voice crackled through the comm system. Feminine, sharp, filtered through distortion. You are entering trial space. Coordinates received. Do not deviate. Do not transmit. You are now part of the test. Test, Thal whispered. Their course updated automatically. Their controls locked. Manual override failed. They weren't flying the ship anymore. The ship was flying them. The freighter twisted through asteroid fields tighter than any sane pilot would attempt. They skimmed wrecks that floated like ghosts just inches away. Some were split open with strange organic weapons. Others punctured clean through with surgical precision. A graveyard, yes, but also a museum of vengeance. Then the ship stopped. No sound. Ahead of them hung a vessel far smaller than Vindicator, but unmistakably human. Its name blinked slowly on their scanner. Judicator. Another one of the Phantom ships. Sleek, matte black, with no visible propulsion system and no external weapons. Docking permitted, said the voice. Trial begins on contact. The docking clamp extended. Cracks turned to Thal. You sure about this? Thal's hands trembled numbly. I think we passed the point a short while ago. They crossed the threshold together. Inside it was cold, not just temperature, presence. The air itself felt thick, like grief. The lighting was low, and there were no crew visible. Just one long corridor leading into darkness, lit only by dim blue strips. Then a voice spoke, not over the comms, but inside their minds. Every planet has its secrets. Every empire has its graves. What makes humanity dangerous is that we dig them up. Crack shivered. He didn't know if it was AI or something worse. They walked along the corridor. Projections lit up as they passed. Flashes of past atrocities, names on the watch list, images of children, scorched colonies, broken odes. It was overwhelming, not just to see but to feel, as if the ship itself was forcing them to confront every consequence of their species' silence. Then they entered a chamber, empty, no furniture, no screens, just a single man standing in the center. Middle-aged, unarmed, calm. You asked to be useful, he said. Then prove you understand what's at stake. Cracks opened his mouth, but the man raised a hand. No speeches. No apologies. One question. He walked forward and stopped just feet from them. If you had the power to erase every corrupt leader, every war criminal, every trafficker and tyrant, without trial, without warning, just erase them, would you do it? Silence. Thal's voice cracked. That's murder. The man tilted his head. That's justice if the law has failed. He turned to Cracks. Well, Cracks didn't hesitate. I would, he said, and I'd sleep better knowing they were gone. The man nodded once. Then maybe you're ready. A hatch opened behind him. Two figures stepped through. Human, armored, marked with a black emblem of Vindicator. No names, no ranks, just presence. You're not council informants, one of them said. You're survivors. Survivors who stopped running. The man gestured to the hatch. Welcome to the Gray Path. Next stop, a world that needs cleansing. Krax and Thal looked at each other and stepped through. The shuttle that carried them from Judicator to their first deployment was unlike anything Krax or Thal had ever flown in. It didn't hum, it didn't rattle. It moved like a ghost through space, utterly silent, as if reality itself bent politely around it. No visible propulsion, no controls. Just one narrow bench and the soft hum of hidden systems processing more data than most governments had access to. A small screen activated in front of them, displaying their mission target, Governor Trell Vaughn. Species, Carry. Location, Outpost 9, Jenner Belt. Status, watch list verified. Crimes, slave trafficking, planetary resource theft, bombing of refugee convoys. Krax read the dossier in silence. His fist clenched so tightly the knuckles on his exoskin cracked audibly. Thal, however, looked ill. He's under council protection. That outpost is a stronghold. Corrected one of the black-armored agents seated across from them. Her face was hidden behind her helmet, but her voice carried the sharpness of someone who had stopped caring about diplomacy long ago. The moment the watch list went active, he became a target. The council won't protect him now. They'll distance themselves. What's the play? Krax asked. She turned toward him slowly. We make an example. Outpost 9 was a fortress built into an asteroid so old it had no recorded name, just a numerical designation. It had shield cannons, long-range defense satellites, and a private security force trained by council-funded mercenaries. None of that mattered. The humans had already infiltrated its systems before the shuttle even arrived. Security feeds looped false footage. Sensor arrays fed fake telemetry. By the time the shuttle landed on a service dock, disguised as a cargo vessel, the station didn't even realize its final guests had arrived. Inside, chaos was already blooming. Somehow, no one quite understood how. Every civilian comm terminal in the outpost began flashing a simple, chilling message. Governor Trell Vaughn, watch list confirmed. Balance imminent. People panicked. Guards rushed to the governor's chambers. By then, it was far too late. Krax, Thal, and 2 operatives moved through maintenance corridors with surgical precision, guided by the AI that lived within the human ship's network, a presence known only as Shade. It whispered directions directly into their minds. Turn left. Guard straight ahead. 4 of them. The voice of Shade guided them with precision, each instruction appearing in their minds like memories they'd always had. The human operatives moved with unnatural silence, their armor absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Krax felt his pulse quicken, mandibles clicking with tension. He'd never been part of anything like this. Not a raid, not an assassination, not a reckoning. But something about it felt right, like the galaxy was finally balancing its ledger. Thal trembled beside him, eyes darting nervously. I don't know if I can do this, he whispered. One of the operatives turned, helmet tilting slightly. You're not here to pull triggers. You're here to witness. Remember that. The corridor ahead opened into a security checkpoint. 4 armed carry guards stood with weapons drawn, already on high alert. Wait, Shade whispered in their minds. Then something happened that Krax would never fully understand. The lights flickered once, and the guards changed. Their eyes went blank, weapons lowered, and they simply turned and walked away in perfect synchronization, as if pulled by invisible strings. Mind tech, the female operative said quietly. One of many gifts we developed after the council decided we were too primitive to join their ranks. They moved forward, through empty corridors that should have been crawling with security. Alarms blared, but no one responded. It was as if the station itself had given up, surrendering to the inevitable. Governor Vaughn's chambers were ahead, a lavish suite that took up an entire level of the outpost. Gold-plated doors, rare materials from a dozen worlds, all stolen, all paid for with blood and suffering. The operatives didn't knock. They didn't hack. They simply placed their palms against the doors, and the metal melted away like ice under flame. Inside, chaos reigned. The governor's private security force, 12 elite mercenaries from across the galaxy lay unconscious on the floor. Not dead, just absent, as if their minds had been temporarily removed. In the center of the room, surrounded by stolen art and luxuries beyond measure, stood Governor Trell Vaughn. Duncari was tall, regal, his scaled skin shimmering with expensive biotech enhancements. His eyes were wide with terror, darting between the doors and the emergency escape pod built into his quarters. "It won't open," one of the operatives said calmly. "Nothing leaves the station until we're done." Vaughn backed away, his voice cracking with desperate authority. "Do you have any idea who I am? I have council protection. You have nothing," interrupted the female operative. She removed her helmet, revealing a face scarred by old plasma burns. "My name is Commander Elias." Vindicator first response. "You are on the watch list, Governor Vaughn." Vaughn's face contorted with rage and fear. "This is an act of war. The council already knows." Crack stepped forward, surprising even himself. "They've seen the list. They know what you've done, and they're not coming to save you." Elias nodded approvingly. She produced a small device, no larger than her palm. It projected a hologram. Images of slave camps on the outer rim, children in chains, mass graves, and finally Vaughn himself accepting payment from slavers, signing execution orders, laughing as refugees beg for mercy. "These are your crimes," Elias said. "Verified by 17 independent sources, cross-referenced with survivor testimony, and confirmed by our AI. Do you deny them?" Vaughn's composure shattered. He lunged for a hidden weapon, but before he could reach it, the other operative raised a hand, and the governor froze mid-stride, suspended in the air like a puppet. "We came prepared," Elias continued. "You get one chance, Governor. One opportunity for balance." She placed a small crystal on the floor, similar to the one they received on the mining moon, but darker, heavier somehow. "This contains two things, evidence of your crimes, and coordinates to a human outpost on the edge of known space. You will confess. You will surrender yourself to that outpost for processing. You will testify against every other name on the list that you have information about." The governor's eyes bulged as he struggled against the invisible force holding him. "And if I refuse," he spat. Elias smiled, not cruelly, but with the confidence of someone who had already seen this play out 100 times before. "Then you disappear. Not just your body. Your name. Your legacy. Every trace of your existence will be erased from the records of every world. Your DNA signature will be flagged as non-viable in every medical database. Your accounts will be drained and distributed to your victims. Your family will receive new identities. With no memory of you, it will be as if you never existed." Cracks felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't death. This was something far more terrifying. Complete removal from history itself. Vaughn's arrogance crumbled. "You can't do that. Nobody can do that." The Valari thought the same, Thal said quietly. Silence filled the room. The implication hung in the air like a blade. Elias nodded to the other operative, who released Vaughn. The governor collapsed to his knees, gasping. "You have 1 hour to decide," Elias said. "The crystal contains everything you need to know. When the time is up, we'll return for your answer." As they turned to leave, Vaughn's voice cracked. "Wait! You can't just leave me here with this." Elias paused at the doorway. "We're not leaving you alone, Governor. We're leaving you with the truth. It's about time you two got acquainted." Outside in the corridor, Cracks felt his heart's pounding. "Was that it? We just leave him to the side?" Elias shook her head. "This is just the first phase. It's important you understand how we operate. We're not executioners, Cracks. We're balancers. Everyone gets a choice. And if he chooses wrong?" Thal asked. The other operative removed his helmet. His face was oddly serene, almost peaceful. "Then we remove him from the equation. Permanently. Won't he try to escape?" Cracks asked. Elias smiled grimly. That station is already under our complete control. Every circuit, every system, every molecule of air is being monitored. He's not going anywhere. They moved to a nearby observation deck, where screens displayed feeds from throughout the outpost. Civilians were being quietly evacuated, guided by unmarked ships that appeared from nowhere. No panic, no casualties, just orderly departure. You're saving the innocents, Thal observed. Always. The male operative nodded. This isn't about punishment. It's about balance. As they watched, a new ship appeared on the monitors. Sleek, black, unmistakably part of the human fleet. The Vindicator had arrived. Perfect timing, Elias said. Krax turned to her. Captain Voss is here? For just one name on the list. She's here for you, Elias replied, to see if you're worth recruiting. A cold weight settled in Krax's stomach. They weren't just witnesses. They were being tested. The hour passed in silence. The corridors of the outpost were now empty, all civilians and non-essential personnel evacuated to safe distances. Only the governor, his unconscious guards, and the human strike team remained. When they returned to Vaughn's chambers, they found him sitting beside the crystal, his scales pale, eyes hollow. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something worse, recognition. I've seen what's on this, he said quietly. The names, the evidence. It's comprehensive. Elias stepped forward. Your decision, Governor. Vaughn looked up, his ancient reptilian eyes clouded with fear, perhaps the first genuine emotion he'd shown in decades. If I surrender, if I testify, what happens to me after? Justice, Elias said simply. Not vengeance. A trial. Testimony from your victims. A sentence proportional to your crimes. And my family? Protected. Relocated. Given new lives if they choose. Vaughn's shoulders sagged. He reached for the crystal, held it up. I'll do it. I'll testify against them all. The ministers, the generals, the traffickers. I know enough to bring down half the names on your list. Elias nodded, but her expression remained neutral. The transport will arrive in 20 minutes. Prepare yourself. As they turned to leave, Krax hesitated. Something felt wrong. Vaughn's surrender had come too easily, his cooperation too quick. A being who had orchestrated atrocities across multiple systems wouldn't simply submit without one final, desperate act. He glanced at Thal, who seemed to sense the same unease. Commander, Krax said quietly. Something's not right. Before Elias could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Different from before, more urgent. The floor beneath them trembled. Reactor breach, the male operative reported, checking a device on his wrist. The main core is destabilizing. Elias whirled toward Vaughn, who now stood with a smile spreading across his scale face. Did you really think I'd let you parade me across the galaxy as your trophy? He hissed. I activated the self-destruct sequence while you were gone. This entire outpost will be vaporized in minutes, along with your precious Vindicator, when it docks. Thal's eyes widened in horror. You'd kill everyone, yourself included, just to avoid justice? I'd die a martyr to Council authority, Vaughn snarled. The Vindicator is destroyed. The human campaign ends before it truly begins. And my place in history is secured. Elias didn't panic. She didn't even seem surprised. She simply tapped her comm unit. Shade, Protocol Omega. Confirm reactor override. A gentle voice filled the room, androgynous, calming, almost maternal. Override confirmed, Commander. Reactor stabilizing. Security systems reactivated. Vaughn's smile faltered. Impossible. The override codes are known only to me. The problem wouldn't carry memory, Elias said coldly, is that it's stored biochemically. Your species evolved to remember genetic histories spanning millennia. But it makes your minds accessible to the right technology. She stepped closer. While you sat with that crystal, it wasn't just showing you evidence. It was mapping your neural pathways. Every code, every secret, every hidden memory, all extracted and processed. The color drained from Vaughn's scales. You were in my mind? Just like we were in the guards' minds. Just like we'll be in the minds of every name on that list. Elias said, "You never had a choice, Governor. That was the test. Your instinct was destruction rather than redemption. You've made your decision." She turned to Crax and Thal. "Now you make yours. What happens to him?" The question hung in the air. Crax felt the weight of it pressing down on him. This wasn't just about one corrupt governor. It was about the system that had protected him, enabled him, looked the other way while atrocities unfolded across the stars. "He disappears," Crax said firmly. "Not just his body. Everything." Thal nodded, his earlier hesitation gone. "The galaxy needs to know that silence has consequences." Elias smiled, the first genuine smile they'd seen from her. "Welcome to the balance." The Vindicator's command deck was nothing like Crax had imagined. No dramatic lighting, no imposing technology, just clean, minimalist efficiency. Everything served a purpose. Nothing existed for show or intimidation. Captain Eravos stood before them, smaller in person than in her projections, but somehow more intense. Her presence filled the room like a gravitational field. "Outpost 9 has been cleansed," she said, reviewing a data feed. "Governor Vaughn no longer exists in any meaningful way. His consciousness has been extracted and stored. His memories will provide evidence against 14 other names on our list." "And his body?" Thal asked nervously. "Irrelevant," Voss replied. "The person who committed those atrocities is gone. The shell remains in a medical facility, with a new identity, new memories, and a purpose to serve those he once harmed." Crax blinked in confusion. "You didn't kill him? You reprogrammed him." Voss turned to him, her gaze sharp as a blade. "Death is quick, Overseer Crax. Redemption is eternal. His body will spend the next 50 years providing medical care to refugee colonies, with no memory as past, but with all his medical knowledge intact. He'll save thousands of lives. Balance. The concept was more terrifying than execution, more just than imprisonment. It was elegant. "You wanted to join us," Voss continued. "Now you understand what that means. We don't seek control. We don't want territory. We want balance. And we achieve it one name at a time." She gestured to a tactical display, where dozens of ships, siblings of Vindicator, moved silently across the galaxy. "The watch list has 3,412 names. In 2 weeks, we processed 89. The Council is beginning to understand that this isn't negotiation. Some are surrendering voluntarily, providing evidence against others. Some are fighting. The outcome remains the same." "And after?" Crax asked. "When the list is complete?" Voss's expression softened slightly. "Then we build a galaxy where such lists are no longer necessary, where balance maintains itself." She turned to face them fully. "That's why we need beings like you, not just humans, but anyone willing to stand for balance. Your species, your appearance, your history, none of that matters. Only your commitment to the truth." She extended her hand, a gesture of equality, not dominance. "Are you with us, Overseer Crax? Not just as witnesses, but as agents of change." Crax looked at Thal, who nodded slightly. Then he reached out and took Voss's hand. "For balance," he said. "For balance," she echoed. 1 month later, the galaxy had changed. Not with a bang, not with wars or invasions, but with silence. Names disappeared from official records. Leaders stepped down without explanation. Fleets changed course, avoided human space, abandoned outposts known for atrocities. The Council, once mighty and arrogant, now met in hushed tones, their numbers dwindling as the watch list claimed more of their ranks. Those who remained were not the powerful, but the just, those who had stood against corruption and paid the price for their principles. Aboard the Vindicator, Crax stood at the viewport, watching stars drift by. He wore no uniform, carried no weapon, but he was transformed nonetheless. Beside him, Thal monitored communications from across the quadrant. Reports of surrenders, of testimonies, of balance being restored. Incoming transmission, Thal reported. Council chambers. It's a surrender notice. Voss appeared behind them, silent as always. From whom? High Speaker Vine. Thal replied, surprise evident in his voice. He's offering testimony against 17 remaining names in exchange for a new purpose. Krax turned to Voss. He's requesting reprogramming? Voss nodded once. They're learning. Fear is giving way to understanding. On the main screen, the image of Vine appeared. The once proud Altari now humbled, his silver plating dull with stress. I've seen enough, he said simply. I've watched enough disappear. I won't be erased from history. I choose to serve the balance. Accepted, Voss replied. Coordinates transmitted. Surrender yourself within 48 hours. As the transmission ended, Krax felt a strange peace settle over him. This wasn't victory, not in the traditional sense. It was something purer, something humans had learned through centuries of their own bloody history. True power wasn't in domination, but in transformation. We're receiving reports from the outer systems. Thal announced, 3 more names have surrendered voluntarily. They're requesting processing. Voss smiled faintly. Set course. The balance continues. The Vindicator hummed to life, shifting smoothly into jump phase. The stars outside the viewport stretched and blurred as the ship moved between spaces, between realities, toward a future where the galaxy's oldest wounds might finally begin to heal. Not through mercy, not through violence, but through balance. As the ship accelerated toward its next target, Krax thought of that phrase etched into its hull, now visible to every being across the stars. We offered peace. You chose war. The galaxy had finally understood the message, and in that understanding, a new era had begun.